The UBS Global Real Estate Bubble Index ranked 25 major cities in the world based on the risk of housing collapse, and the city that ranked number 1 on that list was Toronto, Canada. The annual UBS report assigns an index score to the housing markets for those 25 cities, factoring in current housing costs, local interest rates, available housing, and mortgage rates, amongst many other things. An index scores higher than 1.5 means that a city is likely experiencing a housing bubble. And Vancouver was on that list with a score of 1.70, but this number seems weak relative to Toronto's 2.24. Despite Canada and Toronto's economy doing fine, its real estate market, on the other hand, is about to collapse anytime soon. What specific factors influence its real estate market, and what does this housing bubble imply? Now, before we dive right into the factors, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you can watch the latest videos when they get uploaded. Now, back to the video. A housing or real estate bubble occurs when housing prices surge to great prices in a short amount of time thanks to high demand and speculation, to the point where they're no longer supported by underlying fundamental economics. Simply put, this is the reality of what the Toronto real estate market is experiencing right now. Canada's housing costs have always been expensive, ranked highest in the world for many, many years, but the current situation only drove these prices to insane costs. 5 or 10 years ago, Toronto and Vancouver were the only ones experiencing this upsurge in costs thanks to global appeal. But now even smaller cities around Canada, like Hamilton, Ontario, are seeing increases in prices as well. Though of course, Toronto is still the biggest victim of this pricing upcharge. Within a decade, home prices in Toronto have increased by nearly 160%, with the average detached home price in Toronto hitting $1,061,876 Canadian, or $765,000 American, in September of 2022. This is triple the value of what the house prices were in Toronto 25 years ago. The top 25 cities in the UBS Global Real Estate Bubble Index had a year-over-year price increase of about 10%, but Toronto on that list saw 14 to 17% increases annually in housing prices. So there's tons of factors in play on why housing prices have reached meteoric prices in Canada, some of which have been a flashing warning sign for years, including higher interest rates, inflation, lack of housing units, and deterioration of economic conditions. One of the biggest factors why Toronto's housing prices have gone off the charts is because the insufficiency of available housing units amidst population growth. Toronto is only building 33,000 new houses annually despite a population growth of 1.4% and an introduction of about 125,000 immigrants every single year. This rate was already poor in contrast to the increase in residents in Toronto, but this rate was pre-COVID. And during the COVID era, this rate was very much stumped, leaving less and less housing available. The Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corp CMHC expect that Canada as a whole will see an increase of 2.3 more housing units by 2030. But they also state that the ideal target should be around 3.5 million homes to maintain affordability, or else prices will only continue to increase. Another reason why the housing market in Toronto is struggling is because of the rising interest rates, of course. And if you want to watch one of my other videos where I talk in depth about the Canadian real estate market and interest rates and why they had to increase interest rates, click the button somewhere on the screen to go and watch that video. So in March of 2022, the Bank of Canada, like most central banks, the government increased interest rates in order to battle inflation that accelerated after the Russia-Ukraine war. In September of 2022, interest rates reached 3.25%, or 0.25% higher than the last increase to 3.0% in February of 2022. Now, this puts more financial burdens on new buyers who are already struggling with housing affordability. In addition to higher interest rates, these prospective homeowners must also provide more income in order to qualify for the mortgage. The combination of inadequate supply of housing units amidst a growing population composed of locals and immigrants, as well as the ever-increasing rates, spell a real estate bubble that can explode anytime soon. And this bubble isn't going to be a soft and peaceful one. This one will go out with a bang, since it'll not only directly impact people living in Toronto or Hamilton or Vancouver, but everybody living in Canada. And the reason why is because when real estate values plummet, banks and other lending institutions will be left in a tricky situation like 2008 in America, right? Where mortgages for homes are no longer affordable and they'll be left unpaid. And this could increase supply, but surely diminish demand. This may cause banks to tighten lending for both consumers and businesses, resulting in a general credit reduction, all of which will lead to a depressed economic situation for the entire country. The government and banks of Canada are well aware of the current real estate situation of Toronto, and to the lesser extent, the other cities of Canada like Vancouver and Hamilton. The Bank of Montreal explained to its investors, a price correction in Canada housing is well underway, and many local markets are easily already down 20%. We expect the adjustment to run through most of 2023 as the market absorbs the sharp increase in borrowing costs while a broader economic slowdown also weighs on previously raging demand. The Royal Bank of Canada also decided to chime in and say that they claim the housing correction will be one of the deepest of the past half century. Jim Dunn, an urban geographer at McMaster University, offers another solution and claims that any government committed to providing affordable housing will have to take the politically unpalatable step of reversing several tax advantages for homeowners. This tax revenue can then be used to build more public housing if the government is ever interested in doing that. The housing bubble in Toronto is literally and factually the worst in the world. With greatly overpriced real estate properties, thanks to the insufficient housing and increase in rates, a lot of corrections must be done by the government in order to combat this impending housing market crash, or at least minimize the damage caused by if it ever happens, which I think it will. Or at least minimize the damage caused by when it does happen. With Toronto real estate prices at historic levels, it's safe to say that now is not the best time to be buying properties in Canada. The price correction is already on its way in hopes to bring down the meteoric prices even more. So if you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button, subscribe to my channel. I'm gonna be posting new videos every single week about Canada, real estate, inflation, the economy, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching the video. See you next week.